Hi, everyone. I'm Carolina Strauss, and this is Avenue Code Extraordinary Woman in Tech podcast. Here you'll find inspiring conversation with top executives and technology leaders. If you're listening for us from a podcast platform, be sure to follow us. And if you're watching on our YouTube page, subscribe to our channel. For today's podcast, I'm happy to host Leny Jusuf, the director of sales, Salesforce engineering at Sun Life. So welcome, Leny, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this podcast and thank you for having me. So maybe let me introduce myself. My name is Leny Jusuf. I am based in Toronto, Canada. As Carolina said, I am right now a director of engineering at Sun Life. And my focus right now is really on the Salesforce SaaS platform, whereby we deliver different business capabilities to our business domains in Canada.
Amazing, exciting, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so let's jump to our questions. And I think we have a lot of questions and also to learn a little bit more from you and how all this woman in tech movement is impacting your own life and impacting the environment that you are. So my first question, and that will also go around a little bit more about you and your background. Can you please talk a little bit more about your background and your journey in tech and how you got started?
Right. So I started my career back in 2005. And actually, what I did as my first degree was really about e-commerce and computer science, right? If you look back at that time in 2000s, e-commerce was emerging, but the nature of e-commerce was really not the point where we use the website for buying the things today. So when I started my career, e-commerce was a thing, but e-commerce was very limited to really buying certain things, but people are not comfortable. So really, that is an era that I saw at the beginning of my career. And really my first role when I started my technology career, it was really, I was in a role that have to analyze the system and understand the system behavior and try to come up with the solution and explanation to the company that I was working with. So that company was the insurance company. Like I had to deal with the back office system, very old school, right? A black screen. But my role is really to understand the integration between the system and try to provide the right solution to the issue that are being encountered by our user at that point. So I did that for 2 years, and I did actually have an early exposure on how complex systems work together at that point. Remember, there was no internet, right? There was no like web internet, a web application, a browser. It was a very limited to desktop application. And then my second role, actually, I start moving on to the development. So I become a software developer. I spent the next really 4 years, and that's where I really get into more on the web development. E-commerce become much more a thing. Amazon starting to become much more famous. And actually, at that point, I was actually working with United Nations to help them implement their business process automation, whereby they really need to have a regulated way to have the intake from various countries for whatever they have to do, and to make sure that they are meeting with the compliance that we have in United Nations. So very business process automation oriented, and did that for 4.5 years, whereby I developed a solution for them. So that and after that, I was thinking to myself, well, I always been in technology. I was very technical. What should I do next? Like at one point in a career, you kind of think, where do I want to focus my time on? What kind of skill set do I want to learn more? What kind of skill set I'm not comfortable with? I think that was the point where I decided to really move away from software development and learn more about the people's skill and how to have that stakeholder management and communication with various stakeholders at that point internally. So I moved on to a role of business analysis and project manager, still with the same organization, help them to modernize their system from the legacy, old school to actually a CRM back then. That was in 2012, and CRM at that point is not the same CRM that we have today, where it's very mature. So I had a lot of learning on how to adopt the a new technology in the organization and how to bring in to the point where we can actually roll it out to users. And after that, again, I asked myself, what do I want to do next, right? I spent 3 years doing that. I decided actually I want to take a break. So that's the way I actually went for sabbatical for 2 years, because I feel I missed that industry connection in the campus. So that's what I did, and that's why I moved to Canada in 2015. I went back to school to do my master, and my master at that point, I was really focusing on engineering and management, whereby I get to continue doing what I love doing, technology, but I get a lot of insight on how to manage a team, initiative in organizations. So I did that for 2 years, and throughout that program, I had an opportunity to meet with people for different walk of life, from different nations, and also I had the opportunity to join the Women in Technology movement in the campus at that time, and also they combined that with a startup. So the idea is actually, how do you groom the younger or next generation women in engineering and technology, and connect that to the startup idea or any idea that they have, to try it out and have the confidence in themselves. Through that, I had a lot of mentorship from my professor at that time. I had a lot of insight about how to run your own business, how to justify the business model, and how to get the revenue out of your idea. And I graduated, I keep that connection alive, I went back to industry. So that is when I get into Salesforce, and Salesforce is actually the SaaS platform, really focusing on the CRM at the beginning. Right now, they're also focusing on the digital capabilities. And this is where I'm at today. I'm still in the Salesforce ecosystem, but with the insurance company with Canada.
No, that's amazing. And I think all this exposure and all this experience from the past brings a lot of value, even for what you do nowadays. And what are the gaps that you still face, or the things that you saw that improved a lot with the technology. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of changes in some of the trends that we have in technology space in the last 20 years. And I do appreciate certain technology that we have today might not be the same in 10 years time, because things change all of the time in technology. And I think this is the mindset that all of us have to embrace. If you're in the technology, you have to embrace the changes. Changes are constant.
Yes, no, that's awesome. And I love that insight. And it's something that I learned joining technology as well. You need to be open mind to everything that is coming. You need to be able to understand why this is coming, how it will be applied. Just like AI. AI is it's coming like crazy. And we all been seeing that. But
Exactly.
moving to a different direction now. So you mentioned that you joined a Women in Tech group during your master, but I wanted to also hear a little bit from you what the challenges that you had being a woman in tech in your own career, and how you overcame those challenges, and what advice would you be giving to a woman that is facing similar challenges?
Right. It's actually a very good question. As I reflect on my journey, being in the technology, being in the software development area, often enough, I'm the only woman on the team. I'm actually surrounded by a very talented group of my colleagues, and a lot of them, they're actually men. At the beginning of my career, I struggled a lot in the stand. How do I actually get my idea heard? How do I actually get my voice heard? And how do I actually build a confidence that I need to have, that I know I need to build over the time in order for me to continue to be in the tech industry? So those are the two areas that I realized when I was in my second role, because it was become much more obvious then. So what I have been very intentional about that is actually be very confident about what you think, what you believe is the case, what you believe is a great idea. Believe in yourself and tell yourself that there is no harm to bring your idea to the table. And get yourself heard. Now that you have the idea and confidence, the next thing that I will suggest is actually how do you get your ideas and voice heard in the room. When I say in the room, not the small room, but in a big room whereby there is a competing priority, there's a different ideas. How do you actually have the idea on the table with the goal that people live in that room, they will remember your idea and they can be influenced by your idea. So that is something that I learned as a second step. How do I actually brought up my idea with the goal that people remember what I was talking about in the room? A lot of that come with a practice. A lot of that come with try and error. And I think if I need to sort of share my key takeaways, is actually just try it. Just try it, and it doesn't work all the time, and that's okay. And learn from that one. And feel empowered, because if you don't believe in yourself, if you then don't take a control of what you think you can bring to the table, no one will ever do that for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's exactly how we all feel as women. And one thing that I believe that can help us with that is the women in tech groups, or also be involved on those kind of discussions, because we start to realize that it's not only me, the problem is not me, everyone is facing the same thing. So if we can always share what we're doing, how to do it, and empower ourselves as a group, I think that will make us overcome a lot of challenges in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, in your opinion, how the support of groups for women in tech are important for the future of technology?
Yeah, earlier on in my first response, I mentioned I was part of this Women in Tech in the campus, and I was part of this startup garage that they ran at the time. I think that really influenced the way I think about the women in technology. Before that, I was not necessarily appreciating that women is actually not having a lot of voice, and actually women needs a support to develop the voice and confidence that they need to have in order to run with the idea. So that influenced me to even today. For example, whenever I see my woman employees on my team who are struggling with a little bit with the way they present their idea, the way they actually think about themselves, the way about they think that they're able to do certain things, I actually do some kind of like coaching moment to say, like, tell me where you're coming from, what is stopping you, just chat with them to understand where they're coming from. And once I understand where they're coming from, I will actually understand what is stopping them, just so then they can actually try what they want to try out in a safe environment within a small circle. So I've been doing that every day in my role today, because I do manage a team, and 50% of my team is women, and 50% are great women with a lot of great idea. And really my goal is actually how do I want to nurture the next leader of my team. In that community, I think it is important to give back to society in the sense of mentorship. And mentorship to me can be one-off mentorship whereby I have a network, in the field who needs help, right? And they just have a question. I think that's where I can bring the value if I know the answer. And it can be also a more intentional mentorship whereby I actually be a mentor for 3 months for a very specific program with very specific outcome. And I think the last thing is actually we all have to remember that there's also a lot of women out there who try to restart their career, meaning they start their family, they raise a kid, they used to be in the tech, and now they want to restart their career. And a lot of them had a problem to join the industry for various reasons. And I think it's important to consider our women's colleagues and who try to join back the industry in any capacity. How can we help them?
Perfect. And I think that already answered my second question, my last question actually.
What's your last question?
About mentorship and working and networking between women in tech. And I think that's exactly what you said. For me, the importance that I've been seeing with our movement of extraordinary women in tech, it's how we're connecting people that have similar stories, or even how we can share whatever they did successfully, or even the challenges that they face, how we can put that in the same room to discuss and to realize that we're all in the same boat to support each other. And I think as much as we can to connect people from our network with others, to give the opportunity to others to understand their point of view as not only employees, but also as humans, because we pass through a lot of things. And having leaders, I think, just like you, like whatever you're doing with your team and how you're supporting them, how you're leveraging their story, that's so important. And I'm so proud to hear that your team has 50% of women. Even though leadership doesn't, you're building the next generation and giving them a lot of power.
Yeah, I think it's important because the next generation is a generation where it's going to provide a lot more value to the industry when you think about the technology. Because technology changes so fast, I think we have to start thinking about what is our next generation going to do about it. How are we going to prepare them to take on the role that I have today, maybe, right? Because it is important.
It is definitely. Leny, thank you so much. I loved all the insights, and well, I think our audience also loved that. And I think having different leaders from different backgrounds, different scenario always bring us a lot of value and a lot of experience to share. So thank you so much for accepting our invite. I look forward to seeing you in our future events. And
Thank
also,
you.
everyone that is listening, we do have our conference coming up on October 4th and 5th at the Bay Area, San Francisco. At the conference, we're going to have a lot of discussion about leadership, but also embracing this mentorship part that is so important for young engineers and future engineers that are joining the market. Thank you so much, Leny, and thank you for everyone that tuned in.